Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Bibarol here. In today's video we are talking about the Guardian best build for PvE. All kind of content, open world, meta events, solo bounties, hero point, everything. You can use this build in Fractal, you can use it in dungeons. You can't use it in high end game stuff like raids. You can't use it for PvP, obviously it needs to be changed. This is a PvP build, a PvE build. So there was few changes that drive me to believe this is the best way to play Guardian in general, and it is a Firebrand. It doesn't render the older video useless, but I will compare the builds and I'll make you to understand why I choose this and why you can still play other builds and stuff like that. But the Dragon Hunter build, it has its own mentality. I will leave links to everything if you want to check it out. So if you want to play Dragon Hunter, I will give you that, but this is the best way to play Guardian. There will be timestamp like always, so you can go get to the build immediately. There will be direct linked and everything, but I will be explaining everything in detail and try to make this a standalone, all what you need video, so be comfortable. Now, what do I mean by a best build, or what is a standard the build need to go through to be considered a best build? First, it has to have high damage enough and highest as possible, like outlook to damage first, was also keeping as much sustainability that the build can survive any situation, which what I'm trying to do here. So the build have to have enough survivability through healing, through tanking, through whatever means possible that he can obtain, and have high damage as possible. Put everything in damage after that. Don't put more sustainability than you need. And also it have to have some convenience and adaptability, so it can adapt to any situation. It can fight against power, against condition. It doesn't count too much on a specific thing, so when it be in a position in PvE that's really bad, like a lot of condition application, so it can survive. No, it has to be able to adapt on anything, which means it has to have range, it has to have melee. So if there is things that can be killed by range but can't be killed by melee style, of you're fighting something that reflect projectile, then you can't go only range, stuff like that. And also quality of life, like swiftness, the ability to move. Nothing really keep him down or keep him in combat while he doesn't need to, or stuff like that. So this build has it all, has everything that it needed. So let me start by explaining what is the build and what was the changes that lead me to believe that. So the first, it is a Celestial Firebrand build. I use full Celestial armor, full Celestial trinkets, except my amulet and my weapon. So all the armor is Celestial, back, accessory, rings are Celestial, the amulet and weapons are dire. My rune is the rune of the Balefire, which is obtained through a dungeon. I can't remember which dungeon is. It gives you power, burning duration, power, condition duration, power, and burning duration. And on the last tier also, it converts 7% of your power into expertise, and expertise give you more condition duration. Why this rune? Because it is the only one that allow us to get burning this high, since we are building for condition. Let me explain what I mean by that. For every gear, you have a specific aspect you're building for. If you're playing with Berserker gear, then you're building full damage for power. If you're playing with Minister gear, you're playing a tanky healer. With Celestial gear, you have a Jack of all trades, but literally a Master of none. Because you have high power, but not that high. High toughness, but also not that high. High condition damage, but not at top. High expertise, but you don't reach 100%. So when you build around Celestial gear, you would have to have something in mind, which you would put first. Because also once you start choosing traits and specializations, you end up having to choose. If you building for power, you would find a lot of skills or traits that go for power. This one will increase your damage, this will increase your frosty, and this will give you critical chance. But they are split apart. So when you have to choose between them, you would have to lose some. Then how you do that? You'll find yourself either building for power or building for condition or something like that. And I built this build in my mind going for condition first, because condition have caps. So the most important thing is to build higher cap for burning duration, and whatever you can get for power, condition damage, or anything else will be last or second to the condition duration, because it already have a maximum attribute you can give. So that's why I use Rune of Balefire, and it is a rune for damage. It gives you power, and so everything it gives you is for damage basically, and we want damage as much as possible. If you remember what we explained, how we think to make a best build. For my weapon, I use Dire Weapon, and I use Sigil of Generosity because there is still a kinda low condition cleanse thing. If you're gonna keep this skill, for example, for condition cleansing, you lose a lot of damage for nothing that's really necessary, and you can't keep your Tome of Resolve just for cleanse or waste time to healing and without applying any damage just to cleanse conditions and then go on a 40-second cooldown. So it's not really that optimal. So I keep Sigil of Generosity, and I think it is really necessary to give you quality of life anyway. But the other sigil, I still use the Sigil of Agility like the other video. It gives me 5 seconds swiftness every time I swap weapon and 1 second of quickness. But those two, the quickness and swiftness, are actually increased by the boon duration, which about 30%, as you see here. So it's like 1 second and a quarter, and quickness giving us extra condition damage, extra healing, and extra vitality. So it is nice to give you even the ability to cast your skill faster. And the swiftness is what matters the most, because now we don't have to use this skill exactly for swiftness, or we don't need to get into this tomb exactly for swiftness, but you can remove it, because as you see, there's a lot of swiftness here and a lot of swiftness here, and even you have access to one skill of swiftness in this book. This one giving you actually 5 seconds swiftness, and this one giving you swiftness from the skill number 1. So you have a lot of swiftness application. You can actually spam them in a way, as you see here. So feel free to change it if you want, but I kept it. But you can change it for other damaging things to increase even your DPS, like Sigil of Agony, to increase bleed duration from 47, which all our condition duration is, to 67. You can go with something Sigil of Earth, you can go with Sigil of Bursting to even have more damage to your bleeding and burning, which really good. So it's really up to you, but I kept Sigil of Agility. Now for our traits. Virtue had a change in it, which is this skill. After that, I released my videos, like both Firebrand and Dragon Hunter. It increased vitality to condition transformation to 13% instead of 10, which helped even increase your damage even better. So now this is the best form to play Firebrand, no matter what style you're gonna take. If you're going for something meta, like healing Firebrand or stuff, obviously it's gonna be different. But if you play with Trailblazer, if you play with Citadel Avatar, if you play anything of my build, this will be the formation that you will go on with always. It's not worth it going with Eternal Armory anymore. Even so, it have a little bit higher damage, but we're gonna explain why. So let's get right into the traits. Virtues giving you now Master of Concentration, which means this skill, which was already changed to giving you a field that pulls fire in it, so it keep burning everything inside it, not everything that cross it. And cleanse condition, it increased its duration, so it now 8 seconds of burning was really high damage. It helped cleanse your condition, and it's on a 20-second cooldown only because of this trait. 2 second extra duration to it, 20% lower recharge rate. And I go with Glacier Heart because actually it have higher damage than even going with this one. In a weird way, actually, the trigger of hits on CC is better. So I feel this one is not this much worth it, because the extra damage once you enter any tomb, if this one you're healing, so what was the benefit of this? It doesn't really work. And if this one you're given boons, so only this one that have any value, and the damage is not that great. Most of your time you'll be wasted using something like that or a bolt, so it will increase your damage, but it didn't feel to me that this is effective. And it wasn't worth losing 3 seconds of chill that give you just a breeze in breaking defense bar. But feel free to use it, feel free to get extra healing, even so you will never need it. I use Glacier Heart. The last one is Permeating Wrath, which means the passive effect from this skill is triggered every 3 hits, not 5, which means you have faster burning application, mostly more damage, and it is really great. The minor, however, even do more wonders. The first one giving you boon every time you access any virtues. So when you enter this one, as you see here, I grant myself might and other boons from other sources. When I enter this, I granted myself regeneration. When I enter this, I grant myself protection. And not only that, it's also given us 1% at every boon on us increased damage. So this why also one of the reasons why I choose skill like that, save yourself. look at all these boons, and everything count toward our damage. And also if we apply a lot of boons from here, like different sources, for example, like if we spam boons like that, we have a lot of boons already, and even more. So we always have boons a lot of the time, and it count to our damage also. The second minor, applying resolution on any tomb application, like any virtues, and increase the duration for it, which is one of the reasons why we have a lot of boons once we enter any virtue. And the last one, as we explained, gain 30% of your vitality turn to condition damage and reduce the recharge for the tomb skills, which really effective and helpful to make this better than using Eternal Armory one when you go with Zeal. Because now, the first one, even for damage on a 25.5 second cooldown instead of 30, this one on a 63 instead of 75, and everything just better. You have faster access to boons, better access to healing, and even better access to damage. Even so, this skill a lot of the time would be renewed on a single kill because of this trait, renewed justice, but if you're fighting a champion and there's nothing to kill, then you're stuck on a normal cooldown. And that's why it is just better. And having extra condition damage in general make it even better. Now another problem with Zeal, why I don't recommend it in general now. Usually with Zeal you would go like this, and you would change this skill for Sword of Justice. So Sword of Justice giving you a lot of vulnerability and burn. So you basically would have with Scepter, this skill too, you would technically have 25 vulnerability, which is the maximum stack, no problem. And not only that, you would grant yourself a lot of might, so you would get up to 25 might. That's why it's a little bit better for damage than the one we're using now. But the problem is you would have to focus something for swiftness. Like we said, we can change the Sigil of Agility to something for more damage, which would help increase our damage even higher than this setup. So it became extremely pointless at this point. But this one you would have to have swiftness. But also applying 25 stacks of vulnerability by yourself and applying 25 stacks of might by yourself mean people can't do that for you. So if you're running in a meta event behind a commander and everyone applying their vulnerability or giving might, you already have this support. Support from people coming to you is basically pointless. They can give you quickness and alacrity, but they can't push your damage seriously. However, if you're going with virtues, you actually don't have the might application and don't have the vulnerability application, which means people will do it for you and bump your damage much higher. It is almost 20% increased damage just by going virtues, because you have pure condition damage extra, because you apply your burning from the passive faster, because this skill come off cooldown faster, because you have increased damage from this skill. Everything works better with virtues. And the quality of life to accessing boons and heals even faster. So it is just beautiful. It's not worth it to go with Zeal anymore. And also you have the quality of life, which makes the build, as we discussed what is the meaning of best build. You can have access to 2 stun breaks, more boons to tank yourself for a higher regeneration, uptime, protection, stuff like that. It is just beautiful. And even so, there is a little bit of problem from losing Zeal, which is this skill. Litany of Wrath turn your damage into healing for 6 seconds. 33% of your damage turn to heal. When we used to use Eternal Armory, just Sword of Justice was a mix of damage, you will really accurately move your health up so fast. But now you would have to be a little bit smart on that. You just need to focus on how much burn you're applying, that you need a lot of burn applying all the time to fill your health. But this skill even come off cooldown faster, you take lower damage in general, just makes this extremely working fine. You would have no problem with it. It just don't go with Eternal Armory anymore. It's not really this good. Now for the second one, Radiance. Radiance is exactly as it is. We go with 1, 2, 1. So with this skill, we have Fury basically permanent. From this trait alone, we have permanent Fury. It's more than 10 seconds and on a 10-second cooldown. And only regulated by 3 stacks of burning, which we always have even more. The second one is Radiant Fire, which applies this burning around us to everything. And it is triggered every 10 seconds on a critical hit, and we do a lot of crits now. We actually have a lot of precision and stuff. As you see, once we apply Fury, it's 45, and we even have from the last one extra 10% on Burning Foes and extra Frosty, so it's 55% permanent in a fight, basically, which is really more than enough. We don't care that much about how much critical hits we do, because we do a lot of critical hits, so we measure the whole damage as whole, or the whole DPS. The minor, however, the first one apply blinding and give you light aura once you access this, so it is not that great anyway. The second one, however, makes this tomb come off cooldown immediately once you kill anything, and it doesn't have an internal cooldown. So if you kill any mob, just come off cooldown, you access it, you hit it again. So the right way is always before things die, leave, and it will become already off cooldown, and you can access it again with the full pages up to you. So it would be like that. I'm accessing it. Let's say I applied those 2 hits, but things gonna die, so I leave. And once I kill something, it come off cooldown again, I enter, and it become just full like that. The last one, as we said, is critical chance and ferocity. Firebrand, however, giving us access to tombs and quickness on any tomb activation. So if I go to the healing one, as you see, it have regeneration from this trait, it have a resolution from this trait, and it have quickness from this trait. That's why when I enter, I will get those 3 boons. And as you see, if I enter this one, for example, I would have protection and resolution and quickness. So the quickness and resolution are stuck with us, and every tomb is different because of this one. So might for the first, regeneration for the second, and protection for the last. Let's see, protection, quickness, and resolution. 4 seconds of quickness is really great for whatever you're doing, and if you're running with Sage of Agility, you trigger 1 second and a quarter too. And the quickness giving you extra condition damage, healing power, and vitality. Now for our choices, I go with the X support, because now our X hits can apply bleeding. It's a 33 chance on hit, not on critical, so a third of your hits will apply bleeding. And the second symbol will actually apply daze, which is even better for breaking Defiance bar. And we go with legendary lore, which mean our burning from every skill in the first tomb is increased duration by 20%. Every skill on the second tomb will apply regeneration, as you see, and every skill in the third tomb will apply protection, which is insanely good for both damage, healing, and sustainability or boon application. Tankiness, basically. And the last one is a must-have, which is a lore master, which one of the reasons why Firebrand is really good. It making you keep the passive, as you see, they still on me, even so the skills on self on cooldown. And not only that, it will lower the recharge time or the cooldown time for every skill that you have here by 33%. Let's see, Ashes of Justice have 8-second cooldown, but if you remove this trait, it is 12-second cooldown. Now, let's talk about our choices for skills, basically. This skill giving you the ability to like heal from like 2k or something to full health, because it turns 33% of your damage for 6 seconds besides its initial heal to healing, which you do a lot of burning. You can have like 6k, 10k, or even among people can break 20k burn a second just from your damage, and 33% of that, third of that will be healing. So if you're running among people and you have 20k or 15k burn right now, you would be taking like 5k healing per second. So you almost can't take damage at this point. Basically you take damage, but you heal through it like mad. And this one became must for damage and cleansing. It is just a value of life. It is a fire field. It's cleansed for you and everyone around you. It's great, and it's only on 20-second cooldown. However, the rest of the skills is kinda up to you. I choose Signet of Judgment because it lowers the damage that applied to you. Any damage that comes to you is lower, and it is extremely low cooldown stun break on a 5 second only. And once you use it, you would apply burn around you, so it's even nice for your damage too. The last skill, Signet of Courage, would give you great sustainability because we have increased healing power, obviously, because of Celestial bar. We have 438 healing power. You would get from it passive healing by 268 for everyone around you, 5 targets, every 3 seconds. And once you use it, it actually heal you for all your hits, 100%, you and all those targets around you too. So it is really great to keep it just passive there. And because the other options are not that great, obviously you can go with this one for the quickness, because the quickness, as you see, increase a lot of your attributes to begin with, and it is on a lower cooldown. You can go with renewed focus to save your life whenever you need it, and renew the tombs, but you will never need that. You already really tanky and have a lot of healing and stuff. It felt pointless. You can go with this one, but honestly, the stability and the extra stun break, we already have 2 stun breaks, so I would suggest you keep the segment. However, the one you have most of the choices of, save yourselves, but the other choices is not that effective to begin with. Let me tell you what. The highest DPS you want if you play by yourself, if you're fighting champions or doing things or killing mobs alone, with no one supporting you, is a quickness application. So mantra of potency, or whatever this thing called, giving you the best DPS, the faster application to your skills, everything. It will give you some zamite that you can't apply to yourself and give you some quickness. So it works very, very effectively. There's other options for just bursting the round fast, like for burning from the mantra, or even something like the condition damage signet. So it's really up to you at this point, but the extra boons is just beautiful. I do not recommend you actually removing this skill. I like how it works, how it's effective. If you're just moving around, you can just apply it for the swiftness like that, like you don't care. You have a lot of boon application anyway, so it's really up to you. But there is some problem in using this skill that we're gonna go about right now. So what do I mean problem by this skill? If you knew about the updates in the game, then you know that the maximum boon application for most boon in the game now is 30-second tops, which means protection can be applied only for 30 seconds. Swiftness have been increased like 2 days ago or something by becoming 60 seconds instead of 30. But simply, if you're accessing this tomb, as you see, I'm overwriting the 30 second every time. Like I'll do it again just to make you see. I have, like now I have 24 seconds. So if I apply, it just reset to 30 seconds. I don't get more. So let's see how much time we can get out of this tomb. First, the best skill for protection is this one. It will give you more than 11 seconds of protection. It will give you ages, it will give you extra toughness and stability. So whenever you enter the tomb, you have to use this skill. Even if it override protection, then who cares? You up to the maximum anyway, instead of not using it. So you would simply use this skill. But accessing only the tomb already give you 6.5 seconds. So if you combine those two, it's almost 18 seconds already. If you apply this skill, let's say just twice, you're almost at top. You almost reached the maximum number. But guess what? You already have 2 extra times to apply boons. That's from the tomb only. So the tomb now, because we're using celestial gear and we have increased boon duration, already giving you extra more than you need of protection. It's more than 30 seconds. Obviously, applying it will take time, like half a second in every hit, so you would be overcapping a little bit. So the best thing to do is at least don't use this skill before it, or this one, because those 2 skills also another source of protection. So if you use this skill, for example, and then access this tomb, you're already capped, as you see. I'm already really high on the protection uptime, because this skill became completely extra. It's more than you need if you keep them really back to back, if you use them back to back, or if you use this one because it gives you 13 seconds of protection. So before you use something like that as a stun break, you can use this one or use this one, but don't access at least Tomb of Courage. So keep them apart, don't use them back to back, use them when you're almost out of protection and stuff. Obviously, it's not that big of a deal. Most of the time you can fight and survive and block attacks or skill like that. You can heal through damage. So you don't need to really focus on protection uptime, but I thought it's an advice that's worth mentioning. Now for weapons, we're still going for axe, shield and scepter focus. Obviously, if you want to increase damage, you can go with, for example, instead of shield, you can go for the torch, or instead of focus. I would suggest usually instead of shield, can be instead of that or instead of that, it's up to you, but the survivability would go down and it will no longer be a best build kind of things. It will not survive any situation, like it will survive most of them obviously, but it will not be this accurate in defending itself. Now why this setup? Why the trailblazer instead of, the celestial instead of trailblazer, for example? I usually used to go with full trailblazer, enough to get close to 100 burning, and I put dire after that, like those dire rings and stuff. And I went even with the same weapons, nothing changed, and the rune of Balthazar. So the same weapons, the same sigil, rune of Balthazar, trailblazer, and dire mix. The point of playing this one, it have higher toughness, higher vitality, and a little bit higher damage. But it have lower boon uptime, extremely lower healing, as you see here, 800, and that's also because of the quickness. But once it's gone, it's 600 healing from this one. But with the Celestial one, once we access this, it's more than 1k 300, and once the quickness go, it's about 1k, close to 1k and 100. So it's an increase about like almost 40% in healing, and even the regeneration is increased, passive healing is increased, even from the signets and stuff like that. Once you go to Trailblazer, every number is just lower. And for the damage, on Celestial Avatar, we can afford to remove Sigil of Agility and use something else. But if we're gonna use the same setup, we can even afford to do that on Trailblazer, since we at least use Save Yourself now. So it's not really a big deal. But you lose extremely low damage, like nothing this much. And if you remove the Sigil for something damage like Agony or something like Earth Sigil, it will be better, it will work better than on Trailblazer because of the critical chance and because of already the increased duration. Like I didn't really measure it, but they are not that big of a difference, and once they are supported, they are close to the same. Except that Celestial one have better boon application that can help itself and people, and it have much better healing. And as a quality of life, since you have a lot of power, precision, and ferocity, then you wouldn't fight a structure on PvE that doesn't take condition and struggle against it, because you do a lot of power damage too. And that's why Celestial style is now the best possible style. It will adapt to any situation and will just function perfectly. However, other things that worth mentioning, if you go with something like Core Guardian, even so, it will have the best damage alone, because it will give itself the might and the vulnerability, and also will have the lower hits because of permeating grass. So it will have the highest DPS alone. But on this setup, if you're going with something like Trailblazer, like tanky setup, not something like Viper, it will not scale as high as Firebrand, and with the Dragon Hunter being also this bad. So even Core Guardian is not the highest DPS, it's the highest DPS if you play alone, but once people start supporting you, it's not. So now how to use tomes, we'll put that in the video just to give you a little explanation to help you out if you're new to the class or something. Now for the tomes, the first one I go with 2, 5, 4, 1, 2 for the best damage. And if you need the CC from the ball, you would go with 2, 3, 5, 4, 2. You wouldn't even need to use auto attack, because this one apply longer, even longer, but it is higher burning duration, and it bought weakness too. So you'd go like this, 5, 4, auto attack, and 2. And if you need the CC, you go with 2, 3, 5, 4, and 2 again. Now for healing tome, this skill converts 5 boons on everyone around you, 5 targets to 5 conditions, to boons, giving you regeneration, and 8 seconds of eternal oasis, which increase healing by 33% effectiveness. It tries on allies, but if we heal ourselves for 1k, this number as you read, but if we apply this one, look how much we will heal ourselves now. It's 1k 400, so it works even for us. That's why I always start, or try to always start with this one first, to get even extra boon from the condition, even a swiftness from cripple. Anything in PvE would be helpful and nice. So I would go with this one and then start going accordingly to whatever I need. If I need a lot of healing, I would stick probably to the auto attack, but if I don't, I would use the other skills depending on what I need. So this one would give me extra swiftness, and in areas if I'm standing still, that would keep healing me too. So as you see, this area keep going healing 400 extra, 400 extra, whatever that number will be. And if we use this skill before it, it will even increase this number. The third one would give me more swiftness and also give me vigor and a lot of regeneration this time. So the regeneration would be capping. The last one would heal you for the condition on you, so it's another cleanse condition, and also it will give you extra regeneration. So most of the time I would go 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. If I needed a lot of healing, I might stick to 1 after 5 only, because it will be a lot of healing now, because skill 5 itself will make it heal for more than 1k and a half. As you see, it's 1k 800 because I used it when I had the quickness, and the quickness given us 250 healing power, so it's almost 2k from this heal. And for the regeneration with it, you will end up healing for higher than 10k just by doing that. So if you needed more healing, goes 5, 1. If you need the boons and the effectiveness of it, go through all the skills, probably. Especially if you need the cleanse. Now for the boon one, as we already explained how we use it in comparing with other protection sources, that we try not to overcap our protection sources, especially that it is already on a 63 second cooldown and this one on a 50 second cooldown. So if we waste our time, we get up to 30 second of protection, and we would have almost half a minute without protection. But I would always go with this skill. If I want to break a defiance bar, I would use this skill for the taunt and the damage. If I want to deflect a projectile, I would go with this skill. If I want a stun break or the resistance, I would go with this one, and I would go with this one for extra stability and swiftness. So it is literally depending on the situation. Basically, you can go with this and spam the swiftness that you need with stability and stuff, and that's it. Or you can enter it and use depending on what you need. If you need protection from the projectile, you would go with this one. If you wanted to stun break, you would go with this one. If you wanted to break a defense bar, you go with this one. If you didn't want any of that, go with skill 5 for the ages, stability, and the insane protection uptime and extra toughness, and you just can spam 1, and that's it. So that's it for the video. I hope you liked it and find it informative. Try this build out and tell me what you think. It is really great. It would give you the sense of playing power and condition and healing and support at the same time, even so it's not at its topest in a way, like it's not dedicated for anything, but it works in everything fine. You would help yourself and people around you and still have great damage. You will have links in the description, and now I'm gonna leave you fighting and you'd see this build in action, and I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.
Fear not this night, you will not go astray. Though shadows fall, still the stars find their way. Awaken from a quiet sleep, hear the whispering of the wind. Awaken as the silence grows in a solitude of the night. Darkness spreads throughout the land, and your weary eyes open silently. Sunsets have forsaken all the most far of the horizons. Nights a mask on which shadows grow. Eyes closed and heart beats slow. Fear not this night, you will not go astray. Though shadows fall, still the stars find a way. And you can always be strong. Lift your voice with the first light of dawn. Dawn's just a heartbeat away. Who's just a sunrise away. Distant sounds of melodies calling through the night to your heart. Auroras, mists and echoes dance in the solitude of our life.